Jose, and you see by the dawn's early light was so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight. Oh, the ramparts we walked were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets regular of Osborne singing can't through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say, does that star-spangled banner yet wave? Oh, the land of the free and the home of the brave.
How's that to start to a great day, huh? For all those who were curious about my thoughts on the hockey game, the U.S.-Canada hockey game, and playing Canada was the last week or something, and some very misled people did something really, really stupid. So there you go. What a beautiful song that is, isn't it? Now, moving right along, I'm going to get some people heard today because I can. Nobody can stop me because I own free speech. Own it. Adventure Dog has her fresh chunk of elk bone under the desk so you can hear her. If you can't tolerate that sound, well, there's two sides to the coin. Maybe she can't tolerate you. You know? Anyway. Here we go. Listen to this. Some are recent, some are older. I think this is recent. Hi, Steve. You can use my first name, Carrie. Please don't add what is in... All right. My first... What? Please don't add what is in... All right. My first encounter happened on Meadow Mountain. It sits between Vail and Beaver Creek. The top of the Meadow Mountain ski runs back up almost to where Beaver Creek was later built. Beaver Creek opened in the 80s. I've watched your channel for a long time, and I thought I was sharing some of my own encounters from time to time. I love that you listen and don't judge, and that you don't do the arrogant ego thing many guys in this field do. I watched the video tonight, February 18th, 25, of the guy who talked about the one coming out of the tree. That finally made me want to share. Bingo! Let's go. That's what we are about. That's what it's about. That's how it works, right? Back in the late 70s or early 80s, there was a cartoon I watched a few times. The characters were trolls or fairies or something similar. They could pop between dimensions by going through a tree. No shit. As if it were a doorway. I brought that up with my mom. My mom explained that was a common mode of transportation in the old fairy tales for all sorts of magical creatures. This memory has nagged at me for the last several years because so often in Bigfoot reports you hear about wood knocks. What if, since there are a few reports about Bigfoot being seen making wood knocks, but are seen in the area before or after the sound? What if the knocks is them popping through into our dimension or out? The first encounter I remember having with what I believe was a Bigfoot happened when I was around 5 years old. We lived in the city, but my dad worked in the mountains 100 miles away. He ran ski bike tours at an old defunct ski area in the Colorado Rockies. During school breaks, us kids would get to go with Dad. We'd stay in the old lodge at the base of the mountain. My dad would load tourists into the back of a snowcat and bring them up the mountain and let them ski bike, also known as ski bob, down the old ski runs. We could ski or sled or ski bike, basically run till our heart's content. My dad had grown up in those mountains. It was his backyard. The lodge probably wasn't that big. Looking back, without understanding, but as a kid it was huge. I remember being so young that I wasn't able to count high enough to count all of the cars on the trains that would go by across the street from the lodge. I'd always been sensitive to what some would call paranormal. The river runs through the area over by the train tracks, and an assortment of old sheds. I often felt like something was over there watching me, to which my brothers would tease me. The night of my encounter, I had awakened in the night to use the bathroom. I remember getting up and walking down the long, dark hallway to the stairs. It was brightly lit between the moon and the snow glow. I was able to see just fine. I went down the long flight of stairs to the basement, and there was a landing, and you had to turn to go down the last few stairs. At the bottom of the stairs was an exit door to the outside on the left. I just had to turn to the right and cross the room to get to the other hallway where the bathrooms were. I never made it to the bathroom. The exit door was one of those big glass doors with a push bar across the middle. I don't remember what made me look at the door, a noise, a feeling, a movement, but I looked. I'd always been sensitive to what some would call paranormal. The river runs through the area over by the train tracks and an assortment of old sheds. I often felt like something was over there watching me, to which my brothers would tease me. The night of my encounter, I had awakened in the night to use the bathroom. I remember getting up and walking down the long, dark hallway to the stairs. It was brightly lit. Between the moon and the snow glow, I was able to see just fine. I went down the long flight of stairs to the basement, and there was a landing, and you had to turn to go down the last few stairs. And at the bottom of the stairs was an exit door to the outside on the left. I just had to turn to the right and cross the room to get to the other hallway where the bathrooms were. I never made it to the bathroom. That exit door was one of those big glass doors with a push bar across the middle. I don't remember what made me look at the door, a noise, a feeling, a movement, but I looked. And there on the other side of the door was a monster. A giant, hair-covered beast. It was squatted down with its knees at its chin. Consequently, humans' knees don't reach their chin when squatted down. It was mottled colors of hair. Gray like the silver gray of pine bark, and white and black and even some light brown. I remember seeing the face and the legs up to the knees. But the light was behind it, outside, so the face was shaded. Hooded eyes, hairy face. And there I was, right on the other side of the glass, a foot away. 2 feet away, rooted to the spot. I couldn't move. I believe I peed. I know I screamed. It seemed like my dad was there in a flash, and my 2 brothers were right behind him. The creature, squatted down as it was with its knees to its chin, had been looking down at me. And from my perspective at that age, it was as tall as my dad, 5'9". It went up when I screamed, but if I remember right, not immediately. Not until I heard my dad running to me, and it seemed to go up the building instead of up the stairwell stairs that were outside the door. They didn't see it. I'm not aware of any smell associated with it, but my dad said they'd looked for the tracks the next day. I woke up later than they did the next day. To my horror, my dad was riding the snowcat back and forth across the base of the mountain. I believe we were going to go look for tracks. My brothers said they had and found none. But no one would look at me when they said it. When I asked my dad when he got out of the snowcat, he brushed me off and said he had to get ready for the group he was taking up the mountain later that day. And I overheard my brothers excitedly talking about Did you see the size of those footprints? That thing had to be huge. They stopped when I walked around the corner and said they were from someone on snowshoes. We were allowed to go up in the snowcat that day. My dad told all of us not to talk about hairy monsters. And just before we went on our way down on our ski bikes, my dad told my brothers, don't leave your sister behind, don't let her out of your sight. A few people that had rode up were just there to ride the snowcat, and my dad had to drive the cat down. My brothers quickly disregarded instructions and left me. Bastards. And most of the guests followed my brothers in a race down the hill back to the lodge. I found myself alone on the slope, and that feeling of not really being alone returned. I remember hearing my brothers whooping joyfully and seeing them disappear and trying to go faster because I was suddenly terrified. I took a tumble. I was trying to get the ski bike back up and get myself oriented with the short foot skis on my feet. I looked to the woods at the edge of the ski run, and there it was, watching me from under a tree several feet back into the woods. It looked pleased. I was horrified. About then, I heard the engine of the snowcat and the tick of the tracks and looked up to see my dad crest the hill. When I looked back, it was gone. My family denied seeing tracks or anything, and I remained adamant that I'd seen it. For me, at 5 years old, monsters were real. I remember after that, at some point, In Search of with Leonard Nimoy. With Leonard Nimoy came on the television, and I argued with my family about, I saw a Yeti. And my dad said, the Himalayas are a long ways from Colorado. I don't recall ever hearing about Bigfoot until I was older. And years later, my mother told me that my father had told her he had found tracks. I asked my dad about it, and he said that he was worried that I'd be too scared if he admitted it. And he'd also been worried about the business. Closer to the end of my dad's life, I asked him again about the tracks from that day, and we quietly talked about it, and I asked him if he'd ever seen any other tracks. He was so connected with the mountains, I honestly thought if I just explained Bigfoot right, he'd go, oh, you mean these things? But instead, that day, he said only that one time. That day, he said only that one time in California. Apparently, my first encounter was as a newborn in my crib or cradle under a window. My sister walked into the room and saw one looking at me. My sister screamed, and both my parents came running. And shortly after that encounter, my parents packed us all up and moved back to Colorado. Holy shit. I'm in my mid-50s now, and over the course of my life, I seem to have had an encounter every few years. I've never really gone looking for them, and at times it seems like they feel at ease around me. Or maybe they want to see the kid that literally got that piss scared out of her all those years ago. Like they tell stories about their encounters too. People around me seem to have encounters too, or they happen to be with me when I do, and most happen in Colorado. But also through other states as well. And don't even get me started on Dogman. The upright walking canines are out there too. And if you read this, thanks for your time. Carrie, okay? Gotcha. Thanks for your time. You kidding? Thank you for your time and your honesty. What's up with that? I wonder why the tagged thing's very real, right? Being tagged is very, very real. Without a doubt. Why is that, do you think? I wonder, right? Am I tagged? I don't know. If I am, it's not as blatant bold as a lot of people, right? I mean, I got stuff happening, but there's nobody right outside the window with a shitting grin staring at me or under the tree staring at me that I've noticed. I don't really look for it, though. I almost do the opposite. Although they are on my mind every time I'm in the woods, right? I mean, even right now, I'm gearing up to start steelhead fishing in that river and a couple other ones. And they are there. You know, was it last year I took the dog? And we just come up from the riverbank, and then I heard that long howl. It wasn't a wolf. On the other side of the valley up in that hill. And then we both looked up, and the dog looked up. And then I walked a little more, and then all of a sudden she's just started looking up in the top of the trees going ape shit. And And I didn't see anything up there. And then we just walked out to the main logging road. I got in the center of the logging road and walked the, whatever it was, a mile and a bit back, a couple miles back up the logging road and back into the timber to where I left my truck. But what am I saying? I'm saying my mind is on that zone and I feel anxious. I'll admit it. I feel anxiety. Before I go. It's always before I go. Same with hunting. Same as when I go up north. I always get a little bit of anxiety at home. Like right now, I'm not thinking about, I don't feel that jacked up. I can't wait to catch a steelhead. The more overpowering feeling I have right now is, I wonder if it's going to go smooth again this winter, this time. I'll be honest about it. I have that feeling, and I always have that feeling every single night before I get up at 5 in the morning and drive for a couple hours or hour, whatever it is, to get in the dark to get there and then hike into the forest and then start going down that river, right? Going down the river bank. The higher probability of something bumping into you or not seeing you as you come around the corner, right? Or just being observed. It's a very, very, the probability for me and that to happen where I steelhead fish solo, where nobody seems to go, when I'm there anyway. Yeah. He can weigh on you, right? Am I tagged? Not like some of these individuals who share, that's for sure. What else? Quick note on the bolt of my rifle. I've had a handful of people email me say, why don't you just go get another bolt made? And why would you risk leaving it there and it's getting get pitted and blah, blah, blah? Well, it's a custom-built rifle from Montana Rifle Company. And of course I went to a gunsmith. Think I'm stupid? And they all said, nope, sorry, you just can't do that. It has to be shipped to Montana, and then they have to get a bolt, and then they're going to have to machine the bolt and work it to make it fit my particular rifle. And you imagine what it would take to ship a frickin' rifle from Canada stand to the States and get it back, especially in time. So, and it's a stainless gun. Stainless! So everything's going to be fine, I'm quite certain, with the bolt. When I find it, with my whatever metal detector I get. Now, what else? I'm sure everybody, if you weren't here yesterday, and you see my new lid, my new beanie. Sarah's all excited. She's got these, I don't think she's got that many though. I think she said she's got 50 of them or something. These beanies with the new logo on there. And yeah, the old one's still in use, but everybody's very familiar with the HTH, right? And I think she's doing a spring turkey season sale. I think I suggested it to her. I don't know, I'll have to ask her. And there's a few variations in there. I like them. I like them a lot. And I'll be definitely, these are the chippy hats, the youth hats. She's got a few of these too. She's actually flying out to Edmonton today. And she's bringing Chippy back. So Chippy's going to be back on here with me. Mossy Oak, Real Tree, whichever one you are. She's got it. All right. And the link is in the video description to her store, the howtohuntstore.com. All right? There you go. Get them while they're hot. I don't know how many she has, but they always seem to go out pretty quick. What else? Here we go. Who's next? Who is next? I love this place. Don't you? I love doing this. I love all the people here. It's such a good thing. Random shit is the title of this email. Excuse me. Thank you to that. Thank you to the HTH family and of course Steve. I come to this channel about 5 years ago to get some deer hunting tips. What a ride. Around 1985, when I was around 4 years old, I went to a certain spot in my backyard to watch a snake migrate across the yard. Something drew me to that place, to watch that snake. Multiple years in a row, I watched a snake make its way from one point to another. At Athelstan, Wisconsin, around 2010, my fellow hunting camp brothers watched red, glowing lights float through the woods while taking a piss break from playing cards. Newton Lake Road. In 2024, Door County, Wisconsin, Triangle Road, I heard a very distinct tree knock, like a baseball bat against a tree while bow hunting. My dad said he heard it as well, once we met up later in the day. I really wish that group of us like-minded people could start a community. This is the best group of people I've ever ran into online. I'm all in starting a community. How to hunt live. No shame. Say it loud. Quinn Schoenberg. Oh, Shane Berg. Quinn Schoenberg. Got her. Got you, Shane. Appreciate the email, man. Appreciate it big time. More members. More members of the club. Ohio canoe trip. These are all recent inbox, I believe. Hello, Steve. I've had a hell of a time getting through to tell my story and have had comments removed. Yeah, I don't get the comments removed shit, man. I must have offended YouTube in the past, and yes, I've been in YouTube jail too, lol. I wrote my experience down first to make it easy on both of us. You may use my name. I am Mark Seaton, and from Southeast Ohio. I'm 64, and like other HTH family members, I don't give a shit about non-believers' opinions. Okay, here we go. 5 of us guys that worked at a grain elevator, basically a one-stop farmer's shop, took off for a one-night canoe trip. We floated along, just enjoying being out. The highlight of the day was seeing one beaver. Evening came, we set up camp on a sandbar and fixed some dinner. By dark, I was settling down in my tent, and 2 of the guys walked downstream to try to find a good spot to do some catfishing. They may have been down there for 15 minutes or so when I heard a very loud kasplush, which sounded like 2 100 slabs of cement hitting the water in just over a second. 10 seconds later, the 2 guys came running like hell back into camp without poles or tackle boxes, hollering, "It wasn't an effing deer. It wasn't an effing deer," several times in a row. What really freaked me out was their faces looked like they were painted white, and their eyes were the size of quarters. Now, the weird thing was that after they settled down, which was quick, all I remember was seeing a very large, blacker than black of night form. How many people have said this? Crossed the stream and heard 2 crunches and all was quiet. The other weird thing was we all went to sleep. The next morning, nothing was said about the previous night's event. Not because of fear, but I swear it was like that Sabe had, and I'll use the term, zapped all of us, saying, "You didn't see me, and nothing happened." The size of that figure I seen was like two large black Angus steers combined when it crossed that stream. Holy shit. Even at work the next Monday, not a word was said, and I really didn't think of it until I was on another canoe trip weeks later. How bizarre is that, isn't it? I've held on to the story for over 20 years. Thanks to watching your hunting videos, then the stories about the people, as the Owlman says, that I finally get to tell it to you and the great How to Hunt family. I really do feel like we are a family of truth seekers, and I really appreciate all the things you and Sarah do for all of us and the great things you do for your community. Thank you for my Club of No Return hoodie also. I'd really like to meet you someday, you never know. Small world sometimes, I'm sure we'd have a lot of laughs. I've been a fan of your channel even before the gerbil story and the neck-shot grizzly that had its head tucked under its body and still wanted to kill. I can only imagine the sounds that came from that. It was absolutely creepier and shit, yeah. I'll wrap this up one last time. Thank you for inspiring me to get my ass out of the house and get some hikes in, even though it's a bit chilly, but I love it. That's my story. Mark Seaton. Appreciate you, man. Absolutely appreciate you. Gotcha. Got your note. All right, man. Side by side. Who's next? The size, right? The size. My experience. Hi, Steve. My name is Brian, and this is a night almost a decade ago I still think about often. We all do. We all do. Every one of us does. In late September 2013, a friend named Joe, his dog, and myself decided early in the day to get out of town and camp for a night. We live just minutes south of the Adirondacks. So, we are very fortunate to have amazing close spots for such occasions. We parked off of Highway 29A in the most southern parts of the Adirondacks and started our hike to Nine Corners Lake. It's a lake with no road access and is about an hour hike to get to. When we arrived, we took note that we seemed to be the only ones there. Middle of the week. No other cars parked along the highway at the head of the trail, and late September, it wasn't surprising. We had a U.S. Army issue single-man tent, and I had a slightly bigger 3-man tent, so we decided the dog would sleep with me in my tent. We were set up at the bottom of a steep hill that landed on a boulder that made a giant rock slab cliff perfect for jumping into the lake. About a 20-foot drop to the water. We swam and jumped off the cliff for a while, as well as the dog. The dog would jump in, but immediately need help finding his way out of the water. After swimming, we ate and headed to bed. Joe in his single-man tent, and myself and the dog 10 feet away in my tent. I'm not sure how long I was asleep, but the fire was just embers, no longer illuminating my tent. I woke up to the dog shaking and slightly whimpering. I figured he was cold, so I put my sweater over him to warm him, and I closed my eyes. Just as I did, I heard what I can only describe as a bowling ball rolling down the steep hill behind our tents. Before I could think, whatever it was slammed into a tree 10 yards. Joe yells, "What the hell was that?" I tell him it sounded like a boulder rolling down the hill and being stopped by a tree. We calm down and quickly fall back to sleep. Not long after, I'm awoken by the dog wanting to get out of the tent. I assumed to go to the bathroom, so thinking nothing of it, I let him out. And within seconds, I hear a giant splash in the lake, just feet away, followed by water from the splash landing on my tent and sizzling in the embers of the fire. Holy shit. I yelled to Joe to wake him. "Joe, get your damn dog." He jumped in the lake. Joe responds, "Are you kidding me?" And goes to get up, and all within 5 seconds of this splash, the dog out of nowhere comes running back in the tent. And my biggest worry is he's going to get everything in my tent wet. But to my surprise and instant terror, I realize the dog is as dry as a dog can be and looks terrified, laid right down next to me and buried his head. I explained to Joe everything that just happened, and we wanted to leave right then. But packing and hiking out at 4 a.m. wasn't really an option. We stayed up, packed up at sunrise at around 6:30 a.m. and got out of there. We got down to the road and broke out the propane stove there, and I made breakfast there. We couldn't get out of the woods quick enough. I see no evidence the next morning of a boulder wrecking a tree, which I couldn't believe. And the disturbance on that hill, no disturbance on that hill at all. Just a perfect blanket of pine needles. Thanks for extending your platform, Steve. Brian. Thanks for sending that email in, Brian. Appreciate it, man. The amount of sounds, terrifying sounds, blatant loud sound, water hitting a tent, and nothing there. No sign. The amount of trees getting mowed over like a bulldozer, quote. Nothing there. There's a lot of evidence there that somewhat points to some type of parallel existence going on right next to us. Don't you think? Sure seems that way a lot of times to me. Don't you think? It's the only way you can explain as well. It's the only way us simple humans can come up with some kind of an answer for the amount of odd shit that goes on right next to somebody. There's no tracks, no sign of anything. Everybody heard it. The ground shook, right? It sounded like a bulldozer. You could hear all the trees getting flattened. Next day, nothing. How do you explain that one? How does a simple human being like me or a lot of others come up with an excuse for that one? I don't know. Got an idea? Excuse me. A couple of experiences. Hello, Steve. I hope this email finds you well. My name is David, and I'm from Maine originally, but currently live in Georgia. I've always been an outdoors kind of person, camping, fishing, and hunting. I followed Dave for several years. His videos led me to your YouTube channel. I've had interest in Sasquatch since I was very young. Growing up in Maine, I never thought about these beings being anywhere near Maine, as most of the stories back in the 70s revolved around California and the Pacific Northwest. Obviously, that notion was very wrong. I've had a few experiences, but cannot for sure say it was Sasquatch. My first was back in 84-85 hunting season in Maine. I was 16, 17 years old. Every year, my dad would let me out of school for a week to go hunting in northern Maine. We'd been at camp several days without anyone seeing any deer. This particular day, there were 4 of us, and it was late afternoon. There had been some logging done within the last year, and there were plenty of clear cuts. During the previous day, I found a pine tree that had been cut approximately 5 feet high and broke off at the back. It kind of formed a nice chair to sit on and overlooked this huge clear-cut area. The other 3 guys went across the dirt road from this location, and I went to the chair. I'd been there for an hour when I heard something in the tree line approximately 110 yards from my location. The clear cut was probably 100 yards by 150 yards. A very clear view. I was seated to the front of the cut nearest the road coming in. I waited to see if I could see anything, but I couldn't see any movement. Whatever it was skirting the clear cut and staying inside the tree line. And as it got closer, I could tell it sounded fairly big. I was thinking a huge buck or possibly a black bear, but the more I listened, it started to sound like a person or another hunter. I thought maybe one of the other guys decided to come over to my side of the road. As was customary within our hunting group, we would whistle to one another if we were close but couldn't see each other. I let out a quick whistle just to let whoever was there know where I was. The movement stopped. I waited for the return whistle and nothing. I continued to look in the direction the sound had been coming from, but still couldn't see anything. I waited for several minutes without hearing anything. The walking started back again. I again whistled, a little louder this time. The walking immediately stopped. I was wondering why this hunter didn't respond back to me. And a few more minutes went by, and whatever it was started walking off away from me deeper into the woods. I never saw or smelled anything. I didn't think about the woods going totally silent because I was too intent on whatever it was I was hearing. Not until I left the area and I could no longer hear it, walking, did I notice all the forest sounds come back. When we met at the dirt road about 2 hours later, I asked who was hunting out in front of me. No one was. They were all on the opposite side of the road from where I'd been. I just brushed it off and didn't mention anyone what had happened. There were always certain areas where we would hunt that simply gave me the creeps for whatever reason. I avoided those areas. We still own that camp, and I go there every summer, but I haven't gone hunting since I was in my 20s. The second incident occurred in Kentucky in 2007. A friend of mine took me fishing to a lake called Cave Run Lake. We went out on his boat, and we're in an area where there were no camps, houses, or roads near the lake. And as we were working our way down the bank, I got the weird sense we were being watched. I didn't hear anything, nor smell anything. Just that feeling you get. We continued to fish, and the feeling got stronger. I told my friend what I was feeling, and he said he was also feeling it. About that time, we heard what initially sounded like an elk bugle, but it didn't quite sound right. Somehow it was off, and I can't explain it. Then we heard what sounded like something very large moving away from us and the bank. Several larger sounding branches were broken off as it moved away. Could it have been an elk? Sure. Can't say for sure it was or wasn't. However, I've been watched by several deer and bear and never once had that strange feeling. At last, I'd like to add my own personal beliefs about Sasquatch. I most certainly believe these beings exist. My biggest reason for believing is the Native American First Nations people. For centuries and generations, they have passed down stories about the hairy people of the woods. the giants of the forest, the protectors of the land. Every single tribe has stories prior to the government and, quote, the white man, end quote, giving false treaties and deceiving them. These peoples didn't know what it was to lie. They were and still are very honest people. Every legend, story, or myth always has truth within. I find it hard to believe that all the different tribes in the U.S. and Canada were/are lying about their knowledge of Sasquatch. Sorry for the long email. Thank you for being such a straightforward, no BS kind of guy. I respect you and know you have nothing to gain by telling you of your encounters. And again, thank you for all you do. I know it can be very life-consuming. Sincerely, David Alessi. Appreciate you, David. I'm just going to add in that there is a whole pile of honest people running around the planet. Doesn't matter the race you are, the color of your skin, it doesn't matter. This channel proves that quite clearly. Just saying. Yeah, there's one thing for sure. There's a lot of history, both of the First Nations in North America as well as Europe and Asia, Australia, the whole globe. Every single one of us has a history going back since time began, right? The same description, same carving, same depictions. And I will add as well, there is tens of thousands of eyewitness testimonies here. Which, for me, well, I mean, I don't need a witness myself. I don't need nothing myself. I know what I saw. I know what I know. Nothing will ever change it, and there isn't a human being big enough to shame me into changing my truth of what I know is to be fact. Nothing I can do about it. Can't change it. Seen it. But anyway, but all of these people, for people who might question something about this stage of the game, I mean, people more, I think, need to focus on how possibly your brain got to a place where it just can't accept people's words, their word. You know, sure, yeah, we have lots of dishonest people, more so in leadership roles, but what prevents a human's mind today from shrugging off, I don't know, take a small number, 100,000 eyewitness accounts unrelated to each other, spread out around the globe, and how many human minds go like this? Huh? That's hogwash, right? And off they go. Like I said in the very beginning, it's more amazing to me. The amazing thing to watch for me, the crazy movie, is just watching humans and how they're going through this lifetime. It freaks me out. Right? It's just like, what the fuck is going on, man? Holy, I can't be part of the I can't be the same species, can I? All the time, not all the time, but sometimes I just think I was just born the wrong time. I'm not supposed to be here during these times, I don't think. Everything is just so bizarre to me. So confusing to watch. It's like, how the hell can I be a part of this? I'm not supposed to be here. I think I was supposed to have been born, or maybe I was, in the woods a long time ago. Myself. Everything is just so blatant wrong. I see it so clearly in so many different areas today. It's just so frickin' wrong. It's mind-boggling. Frustrating. Because that's why I do what I do, right? I guess that's why we do what we do. But anyway, I gotta get ripping. Sarah has to fly today again. I have to drive to a small place called Comox on Vancouver Island and give her a ride to that airport. Off she goes to go see her brother and all the little gremlins that she's going to bring Chippy back. And then I'm going to keep going. I almost got this room complete. Almost. I'm going to let my wood in the shop dry a little more. I got to tear down this wall next and drop everything down to get rid of these embarrassing gaps. And that's about all she wrote for today. If you guys missed my epic rant yesterday, make sure you watch yesterday's video to the end. And again, No more emails today in case I really annoy you. I've had some very, very kind people show up on my boat and tell me flat out, I don't even listen to you talk until I see your glasses go on. I fast forward. I'm like, I don't give a shit. Trust me, you'll never offend me. You can't offend me. You take from what you will and leave it. It's a pretty simple rule to live by, right? If you live by that rule, how can you get angry at anything? Especially when people tell you what they're taking or leaving. Do you? Perfect. As long as you're getting something, I don't give a shit if you listen to me or not. But I would like to give everyone in the world one simple little challenge right now. Just one quick little challenge. All you got to do is dig. Just do a little digging. And if you can find me the name of a leader, whatever, the collective West in the world today, find me the name of a leader who has been and is preaching we need peace when it comes to the current wars, the war going on in the Ukraine. Just do that one little challenge. I want you to come up with a list of leaders who have been publicly stating that we need to stop people from killing each other. We need peace. Give me that list. I need it. I need it for me. All right. Let's just say I really need that information. I don't have it. Can you please get me a list? excuse me, of the leaders, say the past 3 years, who have been screaming out for and demanding and requiring and trying to acquire peace. Okay? Please. And that should point you to some very nasty, hard truths in your face. Please, one tiny little assignment for me and for yourself, for everyone else. Just get me the list of those current, we'll call it the collective Western leaders, who are saying they need and want peace or want to discuss peace. Please, it's very important. It's very important. And I shall be back tomorrow. You know what? I might bring my cameras and my drone because I'm going by some cool places today. And if I got time and the weather's correct, I just might go out and drag you guys along with me and see what we can find. What am I looking for? I don't know. Whatever. Elk, deer, footprints in the snow. I don't give a shit. Anything. It's adventure, right? I'll be back tomorrow. Don't forget, before they're gone, Sarah's spring turkey season new logo is in the store, and it's ripping. Actually, it's going fast. And I think she emailed a bunch of people last night, and she's busy in there tending to the orders right now. They're disappearing. Link is below in the description, and I'll be back tomorrow.